Welcome back to Unusually Effective. Today we're talking about how money is a proxy for choice, happiness, and freedom, but money is not happiness itself. We obsess over money, chase it, count it, dream about what we do if we won the jackpot. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. It's time that decides the shape of your life, not money. Conventional wisdom sounds so simple. Money equals freedom. Money equals happiness. Money is the ultimate prize. Get rich and all your problems vanish overnight. Once you get it, everything else falls into place. But money is just a projection, a reflection of something deeper. It's a byproduct of what we give ourselves to, not the thing itself. Sure, it makes some things infinitely easier. It opens doors. But it can't change who you are when you walk through them. A wealthy person with the wrong life is still living the wrong life, just with better furniture. A schmuck is still a schmuck whether they pull up an Koenigsegg or a Kia. So let's talk about what actually builds a life worth living. The work that fills your days, rising on the strength you were born with, the energy you can actually sustain, and the uncomfortable truths you whisper to yourself at 3 in the morning when nobody is watching. Imagine an unknown painter. She's good, really good. The kind of person who could make you feel something with just the colors and canvas. For years, she tries to turn that gift into sustenance. Long shifts at a diner to pay rent, then stumbling home to paint through the night, watching bills pile up on the kitchen counter like accusations of misplaced priorities. And slowly, imperceptibly, the joy drains out drop by drop. What once made her feel alive, what led her, began to weigh like an obligation, like a once elating relationship gone sour. The brush in her hand started to feel heavier with every gallery rejection. She didn't stop painting though. Instead, she doubled down on her strengths and became a graphic designer, a magnificent one. Steady work, steady hours, a steady rhythm. A few years in, the word of her talent spread through the creative circles. Companies started vying for what she could do for them. And here's what happened. The painting came back to her. In the evenings, when the pressure was off, when it was a gift again instead of a burden. Your profession isn't just about money. It shapes the sentiment of your days. It decides who you see, what problems consume your thoughts, what questions you turn over in your mind on the commute home. A career becomes the lens through which you experience the entire world. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most of us will be average at what we do. Not extraordinary, not terrible, just average. And that's fine. But if you want a certain kind of life, space to breathe, freedom to travel, comfort for your family, a ski or a beach getaway once in a while, a well-used set of golf clubs maybe, some paths hold those things more easily than others. Choosing wisely doesn't mean killing your dreams. It means protecting them, giving them oxygen, keeping them away from the suffocating responsibilities of rent checks and lingering in day-to-day financial survival mode. Picture this. You're 5'7" and you can't sink a three-pointer to save your life. Nobody's calling you for the NBA. We accept these physical limitations without question. On the court, reality is obvious. But in careers, in life, people throw themselves at paths built entirely on their weaknesses, believing the sheer grit will be enough, that willpower can overcome fundamental misalignment. I watched a brilliant colleague flip to corporate law once. Sharp mind, impressive credentials. 2 years in, he was a husk, just a shell left over of his prior self. The problem wasn't intelligence. It was the work demanded, a type of sustained, detail-oriented focus that went against every fiber of his creative being. He was fighting himself every single day only to pace his peers. Here's what people misunderstand. You can patch up a weakness to baseline competence. You can get functionally proficient, but it will always cost you more energy than it gives back. It's like swimming upstream in a river that never stops. Strength, though, Strength feels like the wind at your back. It feels like time disappearing, like excruciating effort that somehow, magically, doesn't drain you the way it should. Pay attention to those moments when 3 hours vanish and you look up surprised, when work feels challenging but not depleting. That's your signal. That's your answer in your search for alignment. Because a life built on compensating for weaknesses will drain your soul drop by drop. But a life built on strength, that's where brilliance doesn't just appear. It blooms naturally, almost inevitably. To outsiders, it will appear as a strength of will against relentless whirlpool of crashing waves. And to you, it manifests as surfing them. There was a time I thought medicine might be my path. It looked noble from the outside, impressive, important, the kind of thing that would make people nod approvingly at posh dinner parties. But my brain rebelled. I'd spent hours trying to memorize endless lists of terms, processes, mechanisms, and still forget them by morning. It was like trying to fill a colander with water. The information just seeped out. Meanwhile, my close friend devoured it. Names, processes, intricate biological systems. His mind lit up like a circuit board. What flattened me gave him life. What drained me energized him. Energy, curiosity, learning speed. These aren't decorative features. They are the engine. They're what determines whether the long road ahead feels like an exciting climb or a soul-crushing crawl over broken glass. If you've ever paid attention, really paid attention to what drains you versus what feeds you, you already know the truth. The hard part isn't discovering it. The hard part is admitting it, especially when it doesn't match the story you've been telling yourself or the story others expect from you. Because pretending you have energy you don't actually have, that leads straight to burnout. But honesty, uncomfortable, ego-crushing honesty, puts you where you actually belong, where you can thrive instead of just hang by a thread over the void of unmet expectations. We all grew up hearing it like gospel. You can be anything you want to be when you grow up. Just dream big enough, work hard enough, believe strongly enough. I believed it until I started meeting people who gave everything. A decade to music, a lifetime to athletics, years to entrepreneurship, and never arrived where they aimed. They weren't lazy, they weren't careless or half-hearted. They were simply not wired for that particular peak. Some people are born with an intuitive feel for numbers. Some have an ear that can pick apart harmonies most of us can't even hear. Some have the kind of nervous system that stays ice cold under pressure that would shatter others. And circumstance plays its hand too. Timing, geography, who you happen to meet at a holiday party. Effort matters, of course it does, but effort is not everything, and pretending it is just sets people up for a devastating kind of failure. The kind that makes them think something's fundamentally wrong with them, when really, they were just climbing the wrong mountain from the outset. The real question isn't what can anyone theoretically become? It's what can I become given who I actually am, constraints I currently have. That sounds smaller, more limiting, but it's actually larger. It's liberating. It frees you from the crushing weight of infinite possibility and opens up the one path that actually fits the shape of your life. I've known plenty of people over the years who love music, who dream of stages and spotlights, of making art that moves people, feeding their ego, acceptance speeches, recognition of their peers. For those a bit less self-centered, it's knowing they lifted someone, if not humanity overall, maybe just a few lucky souls who crossed their path. The romance is intoxicating, but then reality arrives. Thousands of hours practicing scales that make your fingers ache, hauling heavy equipment into venues at midnight, playing to 12 people in a dive bar on a Tuesday, half of them not even listening, watching trends shift and trying to stay relevant while paying rent with side gigs. Love flickers out fast under that kind of weight. Here's the thing about mastery. Enjoyment is not the same as a mastery. Mastery is repetition, the hidden work, the unglamorous grind that nobody sees and nobody celebrates. Passion gives you the spark, that initial burst of excitement. Discipline is what sustains the fire when the passion goes quiet. It's the wisdom to ignore not the loud critics, but our own comforting whispers. You worked hard enough today. Take a break. Rest is good for you. The friends miss you. You can skip the seminar this weekend and go to the beach instead. So ask yourself, reflectively and honestly, do I love this enough to love the grind it requires? Do I love it enough to do the boring parts, the painful parts, the parts that will never make it to my social feeds? Because you always have to pay the price, in full and in advance. If the answer is no, and that's perfectly okay by the way, maybe it belongs in your living room, not in your paycheck. Maybe it stays pure as a hobby, uncorrupted by the machinery of sustenance. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give something you love is to keep it separate from the path to your income. Here's a perfect example. An acquaintance of mine seeking a career change, on the wings of a budding midlife crisis, dove into tech, dazzled by the salary numbers and the promise of innovation. He imagined himself inventing the future, building something that mattered. 2 years later, when I met him, he looked exhausted. I thought I'd be creating things, he told me. Instead, I'm drawing diagrams that no one will ever look at. I'm patching bugs at 3 a.m., sitting in meetings about meetings, fixing other people's mistakes. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't at all ungrateful for a good salary. He was disillusioned, crushed by the gap between his expectations and reality of his ideas being kicked 3/4 down the road only to eventually be indefinitely shelved. Yes, some select few people in tech are shaping the future, but most are just keeping the gears turning, maintaining systems, solving the same problems over and over. And that's true in every field, by the way. Medicine has its paperwork. Law has its document review. Teaching has its grading. Every industry has its grind. If you step into any field, whatever field you choose, step in with clear eyes. The shine is real for many, the salaries, the perks, the prestige, but so is the tedium, so is the boredom, so are the parts nobody mentions in the recruiting pitch. Business class is nice, and you get to fly in style while polishing off the deck to tailor it to your 18th pitch of the week. The question isn't whether there is boredom. There is boredom everywhere. The question is, can you bear the specific type of boredom that comes with this particular path? I'm not trying to obscure reality. Money matters. I'm not saying it doesn't. Of course it does. But money is not the marrow of the meaningful life. It doesn't erase all your problems. It just trades them for different ones. Wealthier problems, sure, but still problems. What actually shapes you, what carves the contours of your existence, is how you spend your days. What kind of work fills your hours? Who stands beside you? What your mind is asked to hold and carry? Whether you go to bed drained or satisfied. Whether you wake up with dread or possibility. The invitation here is simply to state and difficult to accept. Forget the money for a moment. Look closer, look deeper. Where does your energy actually live? Where do your natural strength breathe easily? What can you love enough to give years of yourself to it? Not just the highlight reel, but the whole messy middle. That's where freedom lives, not in a bank account, but in a life that fits comfortably in the hands you've been given. A life that challenges you in growth, absolutely, but a life that doesn't require you to be entirely someone else to survive it. That's the real currency. That's what's actually worth chasing. Thank you.